Hi guys. Thank you for bearing with me. If you just saw, I popped on, but my camera was wrong. So I'm just trying to get this all set up. And thank you for joining me. I am going to do some embossing. In one of my previous web streams, I showed you all these garden journals that I've been doing, and I had to make another batch. So I'm going to show you how I emboss the top of the covers. One thing you might notice is that the pages are still sticking out a little bit and that I haven't rounded the corners yet. So because I need these to be ready for tomorrow, I'm going ahead and embossing them today so that they have plenty of time to they will be dry once I'm done embossing them, but I just like to make sure that it's really nice and it has time to rest. So I'm going to emboss them today, let them air dry for the afternoon, put them back under weights overnight, and then tomorrow I'll trim the edges and round the corners. So that's just why it's a little bit different. Typically, I do trim everything to size and make sure that it's the final size before I do the embossing, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently today. So for embossing, you really just need your ink, and this is just a regular acid-free ink pad. I've got a couple different stamps that I'll be using, and then my embossing powder as well. So, oh, and obviously the most important thing is your embossing heat tool. I have had this for many years. I used to work at a paper store, probably, I don't know, 15 years ago, maybe at this point. And I picked up a lot of this stuff there, just learning how to do it and getting interested in it. So some of this stuff is kind of old, but it still works. So, all right, let's get into it. So I sold some of these at my last pop-up event with this organization. I think it was last week. Yeah, last weekend. And the ones in this like coral color and the curry yellow, mustardy yellow color, they were really popular. And especially the ones that have the bee design on them were very popular. So I'm going to focus on those colors and this design today for my work. So I'm going to start with a yellow one. And I always like to ink up my stamp and do a couple test stamps first to make sure that every part of the stamp is looking nice and covered. So if I were to just have this stamp on the cover and not emboss it, this ink takes a really, really long time to dry, like days long to dry. And it actually, even after that, it could still smear. So one reason I like embossing stuff is because then it's dry immediately. Okay, so I'm just checking to make sure everything's right side up. I'm going to start with just doing this, stamping my bee design on there. And then taking a little bit of this embossing powder, and it's kind of, you apply it kind of like glitter because the ink is wet, and you just want to put that powder over top of it and just make sure it gets all covered, and then you're going to knock off the excess. And I usually like to use a little brush as well because sometimes there's excess right near the design and you don't want to melt that onto the paper when you are heat embossing. Okay. All right, so I'm going to set that to the side, and then I'm going to see, this is going to be a little bit noisy because it's kind of like, it sounds a little bit like a hairdryer, but I want you to be able to see how it goes from, let's see, can you see that? It's kind of like a little bit fuzzy with that embossing powder. Okay, so you can see how it's got that nice shine to it now. So it's like a little bit plasticky almost there. All right, so one is done. I am going to set that one aside and then keep working through. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. It can be about embossing, it can be about the journals, it can be about any bookbinding related info that you have questions on. And yeah, I'm happy to answer questions while I'm working and show you guys what I'm doing. So the process, oh no, I just smeared that. Oh, I'm gonna have to set that one aside. I was gonna say the process is the same. This is why you want to use a brush and not your hands. Um, the process is the same for 2 versus 1. Let me get another piece of paper. You just want to make sure that both of your bees are covered or your stamps are covered. Okay, let's see. Okay. So even if you have, you can buy, this is clear embossing powder. You can buy, different colors as well that will mix with the color of your ink. But even if you have clear embossing powder, it will melt onto the paper if it's just sitting there. So that's why I'm using that brush uh, to take it away and off of the paper. All right, I have some green ones under here too that I want to do a slightly different design on those. I have this little teeny kind of leaf foliage design, so I'm going to use that on these. Okay. There. All right. All right. You may be wondering whether or not it's okay to be reusing all of this excess powder. You know how I'm just kind of tapping it onto a fresh page and then moving it over. And it's totally fine because whatever is coming off and going onto this page shouldn't have any ink on it. And you can just kind of keep recycling it until it's all used up. I just want to make sure that, especially with multiple stamps on the same one, that you're getting all of the areas covered, especially like this one has these extra little spots where the legs are. You want to make sure that that's completely covered. You may notice, let's see if you can see it, there's a little bit of a bend now in the paper here. And that's just from the difference of the heat, heating up the paper and the ink kind of pulling the embossing is pulling the paper because it's obviously not embossed on the other side. So it wants to curl a little bit. So that's part of the reason that while the paper is still warm, I'm kind of bending it back the opposite way. And then these I'm going to leave overnight as well. I'll leave them and gently press them under weight, and make sure that I have something in between each embossed image so that they don't get stuck to one another. just have a couple left, and it's a really quick way to make sure that your designs are getting, printed and stay and don't smear. And it's a nice process because it seems like it's going to take something super fancy, but if you have the right tools, it's really pretty simple to do and quick. After the live stream, I'll go in and I'll put some details about where you can find these tools in the description. So take a look there if you're interested in doing some embossing. All right, so I'm down to my last one. And I think I'm just going to do the basic bee right in the center. And there we go. We've got a nice shiny finish to this, and it's all set and ready to go to a new home for somebody who's starting a garden and wants to keep track of everything they've planted. So thanks so much for tuning in. Like I said, I'm going to put those the items that I've got here. I'll put some links to them in the description below, and I hope that you enjoyed watching this and come back for more. Bye.